Prime Minister Narendra Modi begins a three-day visit to South Africa to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. This year's gathering also marks the fourth consecutive G20 Summit hosted in the Global South. On the sidelines, Prime Minister Modi will join the 6th IBSA Summit with leaders of Brazil and South Africa to review cooperation and explore ways to deepen their strategic partnership. During this visit, Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold key bilateral meetings to strengthen partnership and reinforce India's commitment to multilateral cooperation. Now, India and South Africa have worked very closely through this G20 cycle, sharing concerns especially about debt relief, climate finance and the need to amplify the voices of emerging economies in global forums. In fact, Prime Minister Modi left early this morning. In his departure statement, he said that this will be a particularly special summit, given that it would be the first G20 summit being held in Africa. During India's presidency of the G20 in 2023, the African Union had become a member of the G20, which makes it extremely special for India. Prime Minister Modi added that the summit will be an opportunity to discuss key global issues and that he will represent India's perspective at the summit, which is in line with India's vision of one Earth, one family and one future. During the visit, he said he looks forward to his interaction with the Indian diaspora in South Africa, which is one of the largest outside of India. Now, at the summit, Prime Minister Modi will outline India's views on the G20 agenda, and he's scheduled to speak in all of the three sessions that are based on the theme of solidarity, equality and sustainability. This presents a key opportunity for India. A strong emphasis on countering terrorism is anticipated. India has consistently pushed G20 members to act collectively against countries that support or finance extremist networks. Prime Minister Modi is likely to urge this grouping to once again adopt a firm position on terrorism in the joint declaration that comes out at the end of the summit. This year's summit continues the trend of Global South leadership. It marks the fourth consecutive G20 hosted by a developing nation. South Africa has placed issues such as debt relief, as poverty reduction and access to technology at the forefront of its agenda, and India is expected to push for that exactly, for a stronger South-to-South cooperation, including through India, Brazil and South Africa Forum. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting several world leaders to discuss matters related to trade, to energy and to security. Now, the G20 summit in Johannesburg was meant to be a celebration, the first ever gathering of world's largest economies on African soil. But instead, it is set to be remembered for something entirely different, an empty chair. US President Donald Trump has decided to boycott the summit, turning what could have been a moment of global unity into a symbol of division. But the United States has now sought for a departure from tradition. They do want their inclusion in the G20. They want the inclusion of their representative, not of Donald Trump, at least a representative from the US Embassy in South Africa at the formal handover ceremony, because after South Africa, the next host of G20 would be the United States. But will South Africa agree? Well, the South African president has made it clear that he's not one to be bullied.
The G20 to fully live up to its mission of promoting international financial stability and deepening economic cooperation, there should be no unwritten rules about those who feast and those who must be settled for scraps. It cannot be that a country's geographical location or income level or army determines who has a voice and who is spoken down to. And it basically means that there should be no bullying of one nation by another nation. We are all equal.
The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team.
South Africa's High Commissioner to India says the G20 is simply too big to fail. Despite the US boycott, he insists that the summit will remain impactful. He also made it clear that Prime Minister Modi's presence is especially important. He called the Indian Prime Minister one of the world's most influential leaders of today.
Take us through the role that India and South Africa both have played and Prime Minister Modi has played in sort of mainstreaming Africa to G20, and how can both the countries help in aiding each other in this very deeply divided geopolitical climate?
Well, I think firstly we must again express our gratitude to Prime Minister Modi and India for having mainstreamed Africa during your presidency in 2023. It's unfortunate it took 18 summits for the African Union to become a full member, while the European Union from the outset was a full member. And had it not been for the initiative of India during your presidency, we are not sure whether the African Union would be around the table when the G20 convenes in South Africa shortly. So I think India has demonstrated that we have a long historical relationship between Africa and India.